respond. Right now, step up, get ready. We'll show you how you gotta know the facts, so you know how to act, what to do, what to watch, where to go. Yeah.
Welcome back to Kids Teaching Flood Resilience and You, where you are on a quest to get hurricane smart. In our last episode, we paused our feature film right at the point where we saw Landshark suddenly realizing that he was extremely educationally vulnerable and that one should
never ever say whatever, especially in a hurricane.
Here's what was about to go down. A major hurricane, which we'll call a level 10 hazard, was about to strike Landshark's community, which was close to the water. Landshark's apartment was on the first floor of a building on a very low-lying land that used to be a creek, adding to his vulnerability. And while he couldn't do anything about where he lived, he surely might have taken steps to do something about his educational vulnerability. If you recall from our previous session, EV is a potentially dangerous condition in which something you don't know can increase your risk of harm from a hazard. Not only did Landshark not know anything about how to track a hurricane, he also didn't know how to swim. Drowning is the #1 cause of death in a hurricane. Goodness, was Landshark ever at risk? We'd have to give him a full-on level 10 for vulnerability. Not surprisingly, Landshark's first inclination was to have a pity party. Wouldn't you too, if you found yourself in a hurricane situation like he was? Let's find out what happened.
You'd think we have learned our lesson and been more prepared for the next storm, but that's not how the story goes at all. 2 hours later, my friends had all left the neighborhood. It was already dark outside, and I knew my sister wouldn't be home for 3 more hours. I tried calling her several times, but the call wouldn't go through. Finally, she sent me a text to say she was stuck on the other side of the city. Sometime during the day, officials had reversed the lanes so only that emergency vehicles were being allowed to come back into the city. I suddenly realized I was now completely on my own. The winds were picking up, and it was starting to rain. What happened next was like being in a slow-motion horror movie. Here's how it went. I knew I had to eat, so I made my favorite meal, a jelly sandwich. The rain slammed so hard against the windows that I was sure they would break. The next minute, the power went out. Oh no, where had I put my phone? In the pitch-black dark, I couldn't find our regular flashlight. I had one thought. This Landshark couldn't swim. I had to get out of there. In a panic, I crawled toward the door of the apartment, turned the handle, and to my horror, was instantly flung backwards and upside down by a wall of waist-deep water that burst through the doorway. Somehow, I didn't know how I didn't drown right then. I knew I had to get to the stairs in the hall because that water was rising fast. I swear I felt fish bumping up against me. By the time I managed to get to the stairwell and grab the railing, the water was up to my neck. The sound of window glass shattering echoed in the stairwell. Terrified, I scrambled up toward the top floor landing, grateful for the dim emergency light that had come on. The howling wind outside sounded like what I imagined a horde of zombies would make if they all screamed at once. Nearing the top floor landing, I could hear that someone else was up there too, but I didn't see them. Suddenly, that one weak light gave out. In the pitch-black dark, once again, I shouted, "Who's there?" "Landshark!" cried 5-year-old Rufus, whose voice I knew immediately. He threw his arms around my legs, nearly knocking me over. I picked him up and said, "Hi yourself, Rufus." "Don't worry, we'll be fine," I tried to assure him. "Who's here with you?" "My mom and baby sister," Rufus whispered. "Over here, behind the wall," he said, crawling back to his family. Then, something kicked in inside me. I didn't even recognize myself. "We'll be fine," I said again, but I was quite certain that we all could die at any moment. None of us had a flashlight. In quiet terror, we listened to the howling wind. The rooftop door rattled on its old hinges. It was the longest night in the history of the universe. We must have fallen asleep because I awoke abruptly to morning light, peeking through the top of the door to the roof. I stood up and checked the door. It wasn't locked. Pushing the door open, I stepped on the roof and beheld a sight I could not believe was real. It was as if our whole neighborhood has been swallowed by the river. I gulped and turned around to meet 3 frightened faces, glowing like ghosts in the morning light. Suddenly, I knew exactly what I had to do. I quietly asked Miss Green if I could borrow baby Marie's red blanket. She nodded and carefully uncovered her tiny daughter. I returned to the roof and started waving the blanket in the air as hard as I could. After an hour of this, I became exhausted and full of despair. Just when I thought my arms would collapse, off in the distance came the most beautiful sound in the entire world, that of a loud, magnificent helicopter, now hovering above our building like a giant insect. On the side of the copter was stamped United States Coast Guard. 30 minutes later, after the others had already been saved, I too was secured in a giant red basket by Mr. Shannon, a Coast Guard rescue specialist. He told me to be brave. There are no words to describe the mix of joy and terror I felt as I was lifted off the roof and toward the hovering helicopter above. So now what? Well, to start, my friends now call me Leader Landshark.
If you're a leader, you know what to notice, like Cincy, what to know, like Leo, what to do, like Freda, especially when faced with a hazard like a hurricane. And most of all, if you're a leader,
you learn from and own your own mistakes. I've saved the best news for last. I'm learning to swim, just like a real shark. I can swim, do-do-do-do-do-do. I can swim, do-do-do-do-do. I can swim, do-do-do-do-do. How cool is that?
Before we go, we invite you to join the growing Kids Teaching Flood Resilience movement, a NOAA weather-ready nation ambassador program of excellence, being led by youth like you and these students at Simmons Pinckney Middle School in Charleston, South Carolina. Their amazing video will inspire you to step up, get ready, respond, so you can reduce your risk of harm from an extreme weather event. Next, get hurricane smart with this team from Morningside Middle School in North Charleston, South Carolina.
Finally, please repeat after me one more time.
Never ever say whatever, especially in a hurricane.
Landshark displayed incredible resilience and was somehow able to rise above the trouble he was in. He also knew he got very lucky. There emerged in the 1800s in West Africa a symbolic Adinkra language that featured many resilience mindsets. Integral to the Kids Teaching Flood Resilience program and practices is the Adinkra symbol and messaging of the SANKOFA symbol. SANKOFA can be considered a universal symbol of the importance of learning from the past, as well as tapping into one's own history and cultural traditions for sources of creativity, problem solving, and expression. To practice SANKOFA can also mean looking back into yourself and finding deep resources of inherent resilience and strength you didn't even know was there. As a symbol, SANKOFA is usually depicted in one of two ways, either as a mythical bird looking back over its shoulder, or another more abstract version that looks like a heart formed by two stylized birds touching foreheads. I'm particularly drawn to the heart-shaped symbol because to me, it looks as if the two birds are leaning in, reminding themselves that they have each other's backs. The symbol itself communicates a sense of balance and strength in the midst of trouble. That's the spirit we want to center in the Kids Teaching Flood Resilience work too. And that's why the SANKOFA symbol is in the center of the Kids Teaching Flood Resilience logo. It's easy and fun to draw the SANKOFA symbol. Let's try it together. I usually start by just creating that sort of heart-shaped form first, like so. Then I go up here and I put the heads of the birds bowing to each other. And then I finish off with the tail feathers. And I'm sure to give my drawing a name. You try it. Up next, building resilience capacity. See you soon.